is from Hungary, and he told me probably that he was a rock violinist in one of the top 10 bands in Hungary, I guess back in the 60s. And I don't know if that's what kind of distinction that is, not knowing what the music scene is like in Hungary, but he was a stroke victim, which brought him to the college where I teach, and he could no longer play music because he had no use of one of his arms, and he limped severely. But so he started painting to have a creative outlet. So his myth is the legend he's created about his musical career, which may or may not have been significant. This guy was, well, still is a friend, but he's a boyhood friend who was a marvelous athlete and a running back, football player. That's one of the things he would say. You know, nobody could cut like me, like he could really move. And he was terrific. Now he's about 300 pounds. And he carries it very well. And he's one of these marvelous characters who get away with virtually anything.
Who did he play for?
Well, he played for the high school that I went to.
Oh,
we were teammates.
Oh, I see.
And played in college too for a while. We both played briefly in college, but we discovered that it really hurt. It was way too serious, and it was not fun. There were other things to do besides play football. Yeah.
Hanging yourself up.
Yeah.
So some of the myths are people's own myths.
Yes.
Of themselves. They're not obvious to the.
They're not the universal myths that we've all come across in literature and history, and as we study mythology. These are self-perpetuating myths that I mean help people get through life and dictates the way they posture, the way they interact with other people. But I know what he's really like because we met when we were 11 years old. That's the way it is with old friends who went through puberty at the same time. Everybody was sort of around together and knew what everybody was like and knew the insecurities, knew everything. So even as adults, there's no posturing that's tolerated because everybody knows everybody. So he's just this interesting character who I see infrequently, talk to once in a while, but I'm glad that he's still around.
Then the other myths there's societal myths, there's sort of self-perpetuating myths,
yeah,
there's societal myths, and sort of historical myths.
Historical myths, there's myths perpetuated by religion. I mean, I don't know how everybody else thinks. I have my own views about that, and these myths and these legends seem to govern the way we act, the way we lead our lives. Superstitions are derived from myths and legends. That's what it is. So, you were going to ask about this.
Oh yeah, it's just we haven't talked about that.
No, just underneath the expression is, to me, one of irony and this one of fear, and they're juxtaposed. A lot of my paintings in the past, I've enjoyed interesting juxtapositions, and there's a juxtaposition in that one, but most of them are single figures in this one. But in this one, I wanted to juxtapose two women who were existing in the same space, but feeling something entirely different from one another.
about this one?
This one, magic. I wanted to do a painting that somehow captured this feeling that a lot of people have that there are things that go on that are actually magical in the physical world that may or may not be true depending on your own frame of reference and your beliefs. So I put her in a very, very severe pose and made it look like they're balls kind of floating around. And then the one that's in the top almost looks like it could be a heavenly body. It was done on purpose. Tried to create a circular composition that the spheres actually mimic the movement of the figure. Is that kind of explaining a little, or are you looking for something else?
Yeah.
It looks like she's almost making worlds.
So
Maybe
what is
making
she-
magical mythology.
Well, she's making these things move. The ball is hovering. She's not really throwing it. This ball down here is kind of floating, so she's creating this to happen. So if you want to take it another step, you can say that she is
Unless it's like a
creating.
discus thrower.
Well, yeah. Or I mean, all cultures have these different creation myths
Right,
that are based on magic. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them are entertaining. And I was listening to something on NPR today that where Stephen Hawking has
Something about God.
he's trying to explain how the universe could be created without a prime mover, without a God. And I was lost within a couple of minutes. But, and in Kabbalah, with the ancient book of Jewish mysticism, there's a story of broken vessels, where all that existed was God. If I understand this correctly, all that existed was God, but God wanted to share himself, herself, with something, so it had to create something. And created these vessels, poured itself into these vessels, and then the vessels exploded. So, sort of a Big Bang kind of thing. So, there's a little bit of that. Yeah. There's another one around here that I call Swimming with Dolphins, and
This is very different from the one.
well, it's a little bit different. It's a piece I started earlier, and then reworked recently. And it's a mixed media piece, more of a
Is that like
drawing. Yeah. Charcoal, graphite, pastel, and people talk about swimming with dolphins. I've talked to different people who've done that, but they usually do it in a controlled environment in a tank someplace. So people don't really get to swim with dolphins in a natural environment. So I just find that kind of comical. And I think the dolphins are having a good time by doing it, if they really are. So I just thought I'd play with that a little bit. We created these linear dolphins that are kind of floating and jumping over the woman's legs.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah.
The piece on the back wall.
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about that's right. That's siren. I mean, that's another myth. You know, these creatures who drive sailors crazy. I think it's pretty universal. Because in most cultures, there's some kind of sexual tension that exists.
She seems to be listening for something, though. Is that the expression or is
Well,
that
Yeah, just, I don't know, I sort of, well, maybe she is, but I think that, you know, she's putting out the energy. So we don't see the result, just the action. Siren.